An explosion at a nuclear waste facility in France kills one person and sparks a major emergency. There have been no reports of radiation contamination in the region. It's 6 a.m, Tuesday the 13th of September. Good morning everyone, I'm Ron Wilson.
And I'm Lachlan Kennedy. Welcome to 10's Early News. Also this morning, there have been more dramatic developments in the Craig Thomson affair. New South Wales Police have now set up a strike force to investigate his former union.
In sport, Aussie Sam Stosur takes a bite out of the Big Apple. The US Open champion celebrates victory with a night out in New York.
And in finance, more bad news for the Aussie steel industry. Another long-established company gives up the fight against cheap imports.
Here's a brief check of today's weather. A mostly sunny day for much of eastern Australia. A few showers on the Queensland coast, a few showers too in southwest Victoria, Tasmania and southwest WA. One person has been killed and 4 others injured by an explosion at a nuclear waste site in France. The blast reportedly occurred in an oven. France's Nuclear Safety Authority insists none of the injured was contaminated and the outside of the building was not damaged. It took authorities about an hour to bring the resulting fire under control. France is the most nuclear-dependent country in the world and is a major exporter of nuclear material. An investigation is underway. The Prime Minister has stared down her party's left faction and will push ahead with the asylum seeker swap deal with Malaysia despite the High Court defeat. The government is also trying to pressure the opposition to vote for it, claiming it's a test of Tony Abbott's leadership.
I am not asking Mr Abbott to agree with us on Malaysia. This is something else. This is about government having the power to act.
The coalition says it will consider the legislation but has labelled the Malaysia deal as offshore dumping, not offshore processing. There have been more dramatic developments in the Craig Thomson affair. New South Wales Police have set up a strike force to investigate his former union. The move was announced after Health Services Union officials provided new information to fraud and cybercrime detectives.
Last week, New South Wales Police said there was no evidence Craig Thomson had misused his union credit card. But after fresh information provided by National Secretary Cathy Jackson into the Health Services Union's finances, it's been announced Strikeforce Carnarvon will be formed to investigate inappropriate practices by the union. It also follows allegations that HSU General Secretary Michael Williamson misused his credit card in the 1990s.
There may be corrupt activities occurring in the Health Services Union, and I've promised to our members, it's my fiduciary duty, that we get to the bottom of this.
Back in Canberra, Julia Gillard has stared down her party's left faction over asylum policy. Caucus has now agreed to legislation that will overturn the High Court decision that sunk the Malaysia deal. The government's now trying to pressure the opposition to vote for it, asking Tony Abbott to see it as an investment in his future should he become PM.
I am not asking Mr Abbott to agree with us on Malaysia. This is something else. This is about government having the power to act.
Tony Abbott's indicated he'll consider the bill, but still insists Nauru is the answer.
The one proven success in the fight to stop the boats.
Leah Craven, 10 News.
Outgoing South Australia leader Mike Rann faces Parliament today for the first time since being told he no longer has the support of his party. Premier-in-waiting Jay Weatherill is preparing for the top job. He's announced he'll promote embattled MP Grace Portalacey. The Aboriginal Affairs Minister is under fire after reports children in remote communities are starving.
And she's precisely the sort of person that I want in my cabinet, and she'll have a senior role.
Mr Rann will continue to lead Labor for another 3 sitting weeks. More than 100 people have been burned to death when a discarded cigarette sparked a petrol fire in a densely populated slum in Kenya. Some reports have the death toll even higher. The fire started when a fuel tank at a depot belonging to the Kenya Pipeline Company spilled petrol into an open sewer flowing through the slum. Residents tried to scoop it up, but were burnt when someone tossed a lit cigarette butt into the ditch. Members of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's inner circle, including 3 generals and one of his sons, have started turning up in Niger, which borders Libya to the south. Niger's Prime Minister says 32 of Colonel Gaddafi's crowd have arrived in the capital, Niamey, in the past 10 days. Gaddafi himself, along with his most prominent son, Saif al-Islam, and his intelligence chief, Abdullah al-Sensoui, are all wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity and are not among the group. Australia's latest sporting champion, US Open tennis winner Sam Stosur, has soaked up victory with a night of celebration in New York. The Queenslander was inundated with interviews by US breakfast television. Then she was paraded in Times Square after her straight sets demolition of Serena Williams.
How was last night?
Great fun. We had a great time, and I desperately need some more sleep though.
Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal play the men's final this morning. Tom Scully has ended speculation over his future, putting pen to paper with the Greater Western Sydney. According to his old club, Melbourne, he'll be the AFL's highest paid player in 2012.
After a season-long chase, Greater Western Sydney has got its man for 6 years and an estimated $6 million.
Everyone's going to speculate about the money, and there's no doubt that money was a factor.
He's been paid an extraordinary amount of money, probably I'd say 30 or 40% more than any other player's ever been paid in 2012.
Cleared of structural damage to his knee, Buddy Franklin is limping toward Friday night. The club says there is hope he'll play against the Swans, but not much.
Bit of bone bruising there, and it's probably an outside chance, but he's in the mix.
We'll plan for him playing. And we'll plan for him playing at his best.
Goods will become the fastest man to 300 games on Friday. With 2 Brownlow medals to his name, the Swans skipper couldn't say if he's in the best form of his illustrious career.
I'm happy to be playing good football at the moment, with the team playing some really good football, at the right time of the year.
Jared Waite's season is over. The injured Blue to have hip surgery. Teammate Bryce Gibbs has a sprained AC joint and will be monitored ahead of this weekend's clash with the Eagles.
Needless to say, he's doing everything within his power to get up for the game.
Roger Aldridge, 10 News.
Good news for West Tigers fans heading into this weekend's NRL semi-finals. Star centre Chris Lawrence has declared himself a certain starter. Lawrence hasn't played since injuring a hamstring a month ago, but he says he's fully recovered and ready for the elimination game against the Warriors at the Sydney Football Stadium.
Yeah, really good news. I was pretty disappointed not to play last week, but it's just touch and go, and given the extra week, it's definitely helped it.
However, coach Tim Sheens has warned him to take it easy. Time for all the morning's finance news now with Lachlan Kennedy. Aussie Steel, not the right place to be if you're looking for a job at the moment?
Oh, they sound like they're right up against it at the moment, Ron. There is more bad news on the way for the industry just weeks after manufacturing giant BlueScope cut over 1,000 jobs. A Queensland company has announced it'll close its doors because it can no longer compete with cheaper imports.
It was Kim Mobb's dad who started the family steel business. But 40 years on, he's the one who's forced to close it down.
It's destroying what we have built, and it's very gut-wrenching.
It should be boom time for him. His Billawheeler factory is in the heart of mining country in Queensland's far west. But he can't win contracts, convinced the work is going overseas.
I mean, if we're in the middle of a boom, where is it?
Instead of expanding, he's had to tell nearly 30 employees they'll be out of a job as of next month.
If you aren't in basically Brisbane, Sydney or Melbourne, you don't stand a chance to be able to even tender on this sort of manufacturing.
But the big guys are hurting as well. Manufacturing giant BlueScope has had to slash more than 1,000 jobs. When the doors to his workshops in Billawheeler and Rockhampton close, he'll auction the machinery and hopefully sell the sheds. What worries him is what his employees will do to feed their families. Lisa Rolls, 10 News.
Meanwhile, Melbourne textile workers have taken on one of the country's biggest companies for choosing imports over Aussie-made. Members of the Textile, Clothing and Footwear Union have protested outside BHP Billiton's headquarters, demanding the company buy workwear and protective clothing from Australian businesses instead of importers. The union also wants laws to force Australian manufacturing and resource companies to buy local. The Bank of America had warned bad news was coming, but today it confirmed it'll make much deeper cuts than first expected. 30,000 jobs are to go in a bid to save $5 billion. The bank had already said it would do away with 6,000 jobs. The latest cuts will take place over the next few years. The Bank of America currently employs 287,000 people. Now let's see how the international markets handled Europe's looming debt crisis overnight. And as expected, it did play heavily on US confidence levels initially, but the Dow Jones rallied late and closed up 68 points. The impending Greek tragedy did see European stocks tumble, though, to a two-year low. The FTSE closed down 85 points, while France's CAC dropped a significant 4%. More red downward-facing arrows in the Asian sector. The Nikkei closed deep in the negative territory, a 2.5-year closing low. Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell more than 4%. However, trade was light there ahead of a public holiday. To the commodities, and oil is lower this morning, trading at $88 a barrel, while gold values also fell as investors sold off in an attempt to cover other losses in the equity markets. To the currencies, and one Aussie dollar buys 102 US cents, 65 pence, 79 yen and 75 euro cents. Our market did suffer its own heavy losses yesterday. Spooked investors wiped more than $45 billion in value off, but there could be some slight relief today. The SPI is pointing to a slightly stronger opening this morning.
There's a weather check on your screen. Brisbane, a clearing shower today, top of 23. Sydney, sunny and 21. Canberra, frost then sunny, 16 degrees. Melbourne, mostly sunny, 19. Hobart, windy with showers and 18. Adelaide, a sunny day, 22. Perth, a possible shower, 21. And Darwin, as per usual this time of year, sunny with a top of 32 degrees. Now look at the newspaper headlines this morning. The Advertiser says doctors and lawyers have joined forces in a bid to stop the South Australian Parliament legalising voluntary euthanasia.
The Age has a story on the scandal surrounding leaked email excerpts of former Victorian Deputy Police Commissioner Sir Ken Jones.
The Courier Mail reports Queenslanders are bracing for a summer of storms, bushfires and more floods.
And the Tasmanian Mercury says a young man who died of meningococcal disease was the victim of a strain not covered by the federal government's free vaccination programs.